Hello, this is Pam. Today we're going to be talking about how to overcome or curb your food addictions. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. And this topic is very near and dear to many of our hearts because we want to be healthy, but sometimes we're dealing with these really strong cravings and food addictions that hold us back from living our very best life, and they really slow down our recovery if we're trying to recover from chronic disease. So today I'm going to be giving you lots of different tips on how to get through that period of time successfully and with as little pain as possible. Just want to say hello to a few people. Hi, Margaret and Janae. You guys can hear me, and Danielle, awesome. So I'm going to continue on. Those of us that suffer with disease symptoms or chronic disease, very often we have these really strong cravings. They're so strong and they are real. They're similar to drug addictions. And they cause us to eat things that we know are not good for us, and we know that we shouldn't be eating them. And so it's part of the recovery process to really understand what we're dealing with and how to really minimize the pain and agony of working through those food addictions. And it's not just food addictions, but it's for sure sugar, processed foods, and carbohydrates, but also things like sugar and alcohol, but chocolate, things like that, and breads and things like that. So the key is that a lot of us have cravings, and we have to kind of understand where the difference is. So for us to create like just a real mild craving, like for myself, like I still, even though I haven't had bread for many years, I still wouldn't mind a piece of bread, whole wheat grain, like non-GMO, etc. But does it do my cravings make me eat it? No, I don't, because it's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's nice, it's great, and I used to enjoy it, but I don't eat it because I don't crave it. It's not an addiction anymore. And I have higher values for me living my life. Like, we're going to have our next grandchild here in about a week's time. So for me to be able to take care of my other two grandchildren while my daughter-in-law is having her baby, thank you for all the hearts and loves, I have to be performing at my best. And so I eat in a way that I have a lot of energy. And if you don't know my history, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 29 years ago. So for those of us that have gentle cravings, thanks for all of the love. And please interact, and please write or share your comments as I'm talking. That's how I get to interact with you. But some of us might have mild cravings. Maybe, after supper, we've kind of gotten a habit where we crave dessert. Or maybe it's something that, at night after a hard day's work, we want to put our feet up and we want to grab something special to put in our mouth, right, to eat, or maybe a little snack before bed. And maybe we're not always choosing the right foods. So that can be the start of the path towards very strong addictions, food addictions. Really, when it becomes a serious problem is when we can't control ourselves, when we can't say, no, I'm not going to have that tonight, because that's probably not a good idea to have this granola bar before bed, because, digestion slows down during sleep and there's just too much sugar in it. So no, I'm not going to have it. When we're doing things like binging, when we're eating a lot of a certain food, especially the processed carbohydrates, or maybe we're having too much caffeine or alcohol or sugar, etc. When we're binging on certain things that we know are not good for us, and we're getting to the point where we feel really sick, like you're stuffed, right? Maybe you're hiding your eating habits. Maybe you are a stress eater. Maybe you're using, and this is where sometimes we have excuses or reasons, the limiting beliefs that I've talked about on other videos. And so maybe it's those things where you're like, well, I'm just too stressed, or this makes me feel better, whatever the reason is. But when we know we're eating, and we call them foods, but they're not really foods, they're junk food, processed foods. But when we're eating these types of things that we know aren't good for us, we don't have the control that we should, it becomes a food addiction, and it's very similar to drug addictions, and it can be really difficult to beat. not just because those substances are addictive, but also because our microbiome is probably out of balance. So we likely have too much fungus growing inside of us, and possibly parasites, and possibly some other bacterial infections that all thrive on carbohydrates. So the key is we have to use strategy if we really want to beat this. So for those of us that have chronic disease, we have a bigger intention and a bigger why we have to break these food addictions. And that's the first thing I want to talk about, is the mindset. We have to adopt the mindset of a wellness champion. And the mindset of a wellness champion, number one, what we do is we look at the areas, and I'll just skim over this because I did another video. Make sure to go to YouTube or Facebook and look at my videos. And it was the mindset of a wellness champion. But it's so important to really listen to the self-talk and really understand, what am I telling myself when I'm eating this, right? And then what is the benefit of it? Yes, there's a benefit. What are the costs? What am I paying? What price am I paying for giving into this addiction? And when that becomes really clear, then those excuses lose their power and we are able to move forward. So the mindset is really important to overcome food addictions. We first of all have to start to go back to remembering, when did you have tons of energy? What did your life feel like when you used to do all these fun things, that maybe it was biking, hiking, hanging out with friends, whatever it was that you were doing? How did you feel back then? And when you create this clear vision in your mind of what your life was like and what your life is going to be again, that helps you to have that motivation, that strength to say no. It's going to be tough for the first 10 days, the toughest part, but that's not very long. And this strong mindset of having a strong intention, like, what am I going to accomplish? And also, why do I have to accomplish this? So you're envisioning what your future is going to look like. And then you've also addressed the excuses or reasons that we tell ourselves of why we're eating this. And we do have to understand that it's going to be hard for the first 10 days. It's only 10 days or 2 weeks maximum. But if you hold true to the plan, if you hold true to your strategies, it's not forever. It's doable, absolutely. So number one is mindset. Number two is really understanding that many of these microbes that live inside of us thrive on the carbohydrates that we're binging on. And they make us eat the foods, they make us have these stronger cravings, food addictions, because it feeds them. They benefit from it. And it's almost like we have an addiction, like a drug addiction. That's how strong it can be for some people. So some people know that when I eat this food, it makes me so sick, but they keep eating it, and that is the power. So we have to understand that we have to correct our microbiome at some point. We have to start to knock back parasites, knock back fungus, knock back the bad bacteria, and build back the good, healthy microbes. We have to have that in our brain, because that is very important for long-term success at beating these cravings and food addictions, so that you're free. And I have been free for many years. I don't crave sugar at all. I don't crave alcohol. I don't crave caffeine, chocolate, anything like that, because I decided that, because I was dealing with such a serious disease, and I knew that diet was really important, and I just made that decision, and I got through the craving parts. And yes, I did love chocolate. I had chocolate in my fridge years and years ago before I was diagnosed, and I'd have a little bit every day. I loved my coffee, loved a glass of wine, but you know what? I love life even more, and that is the key, is that what are the possibilities for you, right? When you recover, remember that it's a lot more important than what you put in your mouth. So treating those infections are vital. That really also helps to decrease and get rid of the cravings that you're dealing with. Number three is be prepared. Have food in your house so that you can eat regularly and you can feel satisfied and sustained, and you can make sure that you avoid those drops in the blood sugar where you're like, I need to eat something right now. So being prepared is so important. and making sure that you get all the foods out of your house that will make you sick, so that in the first 10 days to 2 weeks, when you do have the cravings at the odd time, it's like, oh, I could really use that piece of chocolate, or I could really use that glass of wine. Get it out of the fridge, out of the house, so that it is not there to tempt you. So clear out all the bad food, bring in a whole bunch of great substitutions. So even things like for drinks, there are these beautiful sparkling waters that are naturally flavored, that have one of them could be raspberry flavored, lemon lime flavored, different one, peach flavored, and they're natural flavored, and they taste really good, and you can put ice in them or have them chilled. And so you can have a special drink, and it's not going to make you feel sick at all. It's going to actually, you're going to continue on with your own natural energy. And then as far as having snacks in the fridge, having food prepared ahead. For myself, I'm so busy at lunchtime and I don't have time to stop and prepare a whole meal. I have lots of leftovers in my fridge. I'm working out of my home, so I can just zip over and just load up a plate, a huge big salad and a little bit of protein and healthy fat. And before, when I used to teach, I would, after supper, I would pack up some glass containers with leftovers and snacks and everything and put it in the fridge so I could grab it and go in the morning. And I didn't have a fancy lunchbox. I literally would take a couple of plastic bags from the grocery store. We always keep them and reuse them, and just double bag it. And I would walk to school with a really big bag full of different types of food, so I could be snacking all day. And you'll find that when you eat regularly, that you will feel a lot better. I do understand, I'm going to do a talk on intermittent fasting soon, and there is a benefit to fasting, absolutely, at certain times. Yes, absolutely. Giving your body a break, letting it do some house cleaning. But it really depends on why you're doing that, right? Why are you intermittent fasting? Do you want to lose weight? Are you just doing it for health? And honestly, the way that we eat with a Live Disease-Free eating plan is you can eat 3 times a day, you can have snacks, and it's challenging to keep your weight on. And you will have strength and energy as long as you're getting enough calories. So that is a healthy way of eating, that you, first thing in the morning, you don't have to starve yourself. So if you want to do intermittent fasting, fine, but it's not the end all be all. And it really depends what your goal is. Like if you're pre-autoimmune and you're pre-diabetic and or you want to lose a lot of weight, then it's more helpful, I find, with this eating plan when you're eating regularly. You're being prepared, you're having breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks. So you're not having those big drops in the blood sugar, and it's a lot easier on you. You have the sharp mind, the clarity, the energy, feeling satisfied. I like that a lot better. So again, making sure that you prepare your food. The next thing that I wanted to share is eating regularly. I already talked about that, so I'm not going to go in. I just shared that eating regularly throughout the day will make sure that it keeps your blood sugar level steady. And again, strength, mental clarity, and feeling satisfied really is what it's all about. It's really important to avoid things that taste sweet. So yes, alcohol sugars are not supposed to, put the weight on and cause those same problems that sugar would cause, or stevia. But the problem is, number one, sometimes these products are contaminated with sugar, so you have to be really careful. But the second thing is that with artificial sweeteners and these alcohol sugars and stevia, you still keep your sweet craving because your tongue, your taste buds are still accustomed to that sweet flavor. And that's why it's really important to cut that all out, right? If you really want to beat this in a short period of time, you have to cut it all out. Really important. And then you will find that you actually appreciate saltier things. And then once you are past the cravings, you are free. And that's the exciting thing, it's freedom. So do I think chocolate, if I look at it and I say, yeah, a really good piece of dark chocolate probably tastes great, or a really wonderful whole grain bread probably tastes great, but I'm detached from it. It's neutral. It does not like it does not affect me, and that's the big thing. So I can make the right choice for me. So for me, I know that eating breads, etc., is not what's good for me. So it's easy to say no, thank you. And I still eat tons of food that I love. So I'm always satisfied. One thing I wanted to mention too is that when you are preparing, make sure that you understand that too much fruit sugar can also feed. So be careful with hidden sugars. So you might be saying, well, I'm not having pop anymore, I'm not having cookies, and I'm not having chips, etc. And it's kind of hard, but just remember that if you're eating processed meats or processed carbs, a lot of times there's hidden sugar in them, in so many different foods. And also eating too much fruit, even the fruit sugar can perpetuate your addictions to sugar. Just be aware of that. So that's why in the eating plan that we follow, we decrease the fruit, especially before we're treating the infections. And remember that all that fruit sugar will feed the infections also. So it's really important to eat as close to food, as close to its natural state as possible. So buy the real meat and cook it, and buy the whole vegetables and cook them, and avoid all the processed meats, because even things like bacon and ham can contain sugar, and usually do, which is awful. The next thing that I wanted to share with you is that it would be helpful, really helpful, to either have somebody that you love in your life that can support you in this, especially in the tough time, and can kind of encourage you and cheer you on. Or maybe it's a community, and that's what we have with the Wellness Champions. And if you're wondering who they are the trailblazers, the leaders, the forward thinkers who, against all odds, they've been diagnosed with serious chronic disease. They are turning it around, getting their life back, and many have already. And they are doing miraculous things, because our body is a miracle, and when you give it the right support, it can heal, and we can have so much recovery. We can for sure stop disease processes, but we can have a ton of recovery, a lot more than possible. So it's important for you to be part of a group of people that are like-minded. And that's what we have with the Wellness Champions. So it's people that will cheer you on, love on you, and encourage you through the tough part. And that might be 10 days to 2 weeks. You can do it. That's not very long at all. But remember that if you're having hidden sugars and hidden carbs and hidden ingredients, caffeine, etc., that you're still going to have those cravings. So just go cold turkey. It's worth it. Eat regularly to keep your blood sugar up, and it doesn't last very long at all. And then the last thing I wanted to share about this is rewarding yourself. So a lot of times we will reward ourselves with food or alcohol, etc. Try to find a different reward, something that's really special to you. Maybe it's a special night out with your loved one, your partner. Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's buying a new shirt. So as you are following this all the health things that I'm sharing with you, and you're reaching your ideal body weight, maybe it's buying a really special, nice shirt that fits you well because you've lost a bunch of weight and you're getting to your ideal body shape. But use things like that that will not harm your health. So a good movie, listening to some good music, doing something, just maybe something at the spa, I don't know, but whatever it is that really excites you, but find different rewards, not food. And again, we're not talking about healthy food, we're talking about the processed foods, especially the carbs and sugars. So those are some things that have really helped. I've worked with several hundred students that have chronic disease, and food addiction is a really significant part of chronic disease because those infections make us crave sugar like a drug. And that's why we have to really stop feeding the bad microbes. I want you to think of it this way. When you are binging on those bad foods that you know are making you heavier and they are making you sick, you have to understand the bad microbes in your body, the fungus, the parasites, the worms, etc., they are binging with you. And so just have that in your mind. That's another really good deterrent, right? So some people like to do risk versus reward. So if you're, following through, I like reward better. But I guess one of the risks is you can just visualize that these critters that are making you sick, making you disabled, giving you joint pain, decreasing your mobility. They are growing happily when you are binging on these foods that you should avoid. And think about it, when you're having coffee and you're having caffeine, then you are making, and you're having the caffeine, you are making them wired. They're going to be more active in you, and they are going to cause more problems in you. So it helps to really understand the state of our health when we are really overcoming these. And we see such huge miracles in people's lives in the Live Disease-Free system, because we are, number one, helping people to shift their eating away from the addictions and eating in a way that they're feeding their body. And then the infections are less active, and then we support the body and treat the infections, and then do a lot of other things like build a healthy lifestyle and chunk it all down to goals, things like that. But it is transformational experience. And just before I go to your questions, I just want to share a few successes that came in yesterday. So every week we have a call with our wellness champions, and these are just some of the exciting things that came in just yesterday, just a few success stories, because this is what it's all about, right? This is what makes us do the work that we're doing. Number one, Scott said, since coming off of my cholesterol and blood pressure medication, and so he's working with his doctor, but by following this eating plan, he's been able to come off of cholesterol medication and blood pressure medication. He also has MS. I've personally noticed the effects that those medications have been having on my health recovery. Now that I'm off of these meds, I have noticed improved strength, more regular bowel movements, and even more energy. And I can now see that the adverse effects of these drugs were causing. And I can't wait to begin to treat the infection. So before my students treat infections in the program, in the Live Disease-Free Academy, they have to stop feeding the infections with the eating plan, then they support the body, and then they go on to treating. So he's getting close to that, but he's had tremendous improvements, neurological improvements also. And then we have another student, Tina. She said, I've been very disciplined about eating 3 times a day as opposed to only twice a day. So before she found me and started the system, she was eating twice a day. And I didn't expect to feel a difference, but I really do. My eating has gotten very disordered because of my severe IBS and other health conditions. Now I've made it a daily discipline to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I feel so much better. My anxiety around eating has settled down. My bladder issues are continuing to improve, which is such a relief. And now I have a general sense of life stability and well-being. And she hasn't even started treating infections yet. So the students that I work with, they're all at varying stages of either they have a disease diagnosis or they're really close to a disease diagnosis. And she does have a disease diagnosis, and she hasn't even started treating the infections. But just with the eating, this is what she's noticed already. And she shared, I've been taking my dog for an extra walk many days, and I feel very optimistic about the months ahead instead of worrying about how I'm going to get through them. And then another student, Moret, she is treating the infections that are causing her, the neurological symptoms that she's dealing with MS. She's on her 2nd round of treating parasites, and she said, I bought a mountain bike today, and I have to say that it feels great to be back in the saddle again and ride. How exciting is that? And then another student, oh, and she also shared, I'm going back to the gym and I'm getting some good workouts, but not overdoing it, which is awesome. And then another student, Sia, she has been on holidays, and she has so much more energy that her husband has noticed that she has a lot more energy. And she's just finishing the 1st cycle of treating parasites. And she's also noticed that some of you might have had this where your eyes become really sensitive to maybe lights in the mall or night lights, like when you're driving. And she's noticed that her nighttime vision and also just the vision in malls, etc., from probably the fluorescent lights has improved so much. Her eyes are not sensitive anymore, which is amazing. And then we have another student, Shayla. She just shared that, so she's someone that found us following the eating plan, supporting the body, just started treating parasites maybe a week ago. She said, my walking has improved a ton, as well as the strength in my toes and my legs. Talk about huge. So she has multiple sclerosis also. And then another student, Michael, I haven't had to use my cane. So now he is, he had a cane before because of the MS, and he's having periods of time where he doesn't have to use it, and he is in the treatment phase, passing worms, which is awesome. And the worms that our students are passing, the bigger ones, I don't believe are the ones that are causing the neurological symptoms. I think it's the smaller ones that Dr. Alan McDonald has been finding, and possibly other ones that are causing the neurological symptoms. But we still want to get these large worms out, parasites out, because they are infecting us with other parasites and possibly the small worms that will cause the neurological symptoms. And also they infect us with Lyme disease. That's been established. So I can't wait to be able to tell, I just wanted to share his inspirational words here. I want to back up a little bit. Thank you so much for your inspiration. I will never quit. I will get my life back. I can't wait until I'm really able to help others discover a new way to recover from MS. The future is bright. So this is what's happening, is that you can see their mindsets are changing because they have real hope, because they're seeing tangible changes in crazy, crazy improvements in their symptoms. And then we have another student, Lisa, who is dealing with PLS, which is a slower progressing form of ALS. And she's been reporting, she's just getting to the treatment part, but she's just been following the eating plan also. And she has been sharing that it's been easier and less painful to take her shirts off. Prior to starting this program, taking her shirt off was very painful because her shoulders were very tight and her range of motion was narrow. And also going, oh, no, that's a different one. Don't want to share that there. Where is it here? Here it is. I just want to give you the last bit of her update because it's really cool. She also lives in a 2-story house, and when she goes upstairs, she shared, I typically have to stop twice on the way up. But today I was able to go all the way up to the stairs without stopping. My balance is much better and my movement is more fluid. And whenever I used to get up off the couch, I would have to use my arms to push myself off the couch. But now I just use my arm a little bit and my legs take over, which is so awesome. So she's not using her arms. And she has not even started treating infection. I know, isn't that amazing? All you guys, thanks for all the love. So these are the possibilities. And if we don't get rid of the food addictions, we can't treat those infections well. And if we keep those food addictions, those infections become stronger and stronger in us, and in time leads us to chronic disease. So we have to take those food addictions really seriously. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's not normal for food to be running you. There's something inside of you. It's not just the food that's causing these addictions, it's these infections. And we have to address them. I'm going to go to your questions and your comments here for just a couple of minutes. Hi, Janae. You're wondering the same. Oh, here we go. You have come across, oh, have I come across anyone who just can't have a natural bowel movement? It's absolutely normal to be constipated if your microbes in your intestines, especially your large intestines, are out of balance, and your small also. So when you're dealing with, and I teach this in my masterclass training, and some of you might want to watch that. It will be listed here in the feed or above my video, etc. Just look for it. My free masterclass training. So when the microbes are out of balance in our intestines, in our GI tract, but in certain parts of our body, but especially the GI tract, then we can become constipated or have diarrhea, or we go from constipation to diarrhea to constipation to diarrhea. So it can fluctuate. And that is caused by, I mean, it can be caused if you are eating the wrong foods, if you're having no fiber, if you are very sedentary. It can be made worse, but that's not the main cause. The main cause is bacteria, fungus, and parasites that are out of balance, too many of the bad microbes. All of my students are dealing with either constipation, 99, or I should say 95%, it's constipation, and a few of them are dealing with diarrhea. So what we do is we use things like magnesium citrate or ozonated magnesium to get the bowels moving. Like we stop feeding the infections, we support the body, we get the bowels moving. That's part of supporting the body. But then as you treat the infections and you bring back the good microbes, so you're getting the bad microbes out and you're bringing back the good, then you'll notice that your bowel movements will become much more regular, a nice consistency where you're having at least one a day, 1 to 2 a day or 3, but it's a good consistency, it's not hard, and you're having it daily. It is really important to have daily bowel movements, but the reason that you might suffer with that is because of these infections for sure. And myself, when I was just a young girl, like I would say maybe just around 10, just below 10, I had constipation back then already. I remember just not going to the bathroom every day, and it bugged me, but I just thought that was normal for me. And it got worse and worse through my teens and through the young adult time. And then obviously I was diagnosed with MS in 1988 when I was just 28 years old. And so I have learned I've learned what a healthy bowel movement is now. And I know that you're supposed to have them every day. And I was able to correct the microbiome. So the key is, until you can naturally have them, you really have to use supplements to help. And if you're going to use something like magnesium citrate, make sure that you read the back of the label. It doesn't contain sugar or other ingredients or fillers or dyes, just magnesium citrate. And of course, everything I share is for educational purposes. If you have any condition, make sure to check with a practitioner, right? Because I'm just talking education here. So it doesn't matter how much fiber you eat, it's not going to get rid of the constipation until you address the microbes that are living, the ones that shouldn't be in your gut, for sure. Hi, Carlos. Hi, Marissa. Great question. Hi, Pamela. What about decaffeinated coffee? So for those of us that are recovering from chronic disease, we avoid caffeine for various reasons. And we do avoid coffee too, and we do avoid decaffeinated coffee. So when we have these infections and the toxicity from the infections, a lot of times our adrenals are suffering. And we know that coffee is very acidic. And we know that decaffeinated coffee will still contain caffeine. So yes, if you're weaning yourself off of coffee, that is one thing that if you're drinking black coffee and you want to work your way off of it, it's fine to, use half decaffeinated and half, like, to work your way off over a few days, because you will get a headache if you just go cold turkey going off of caffeine. A lot of people do. But coffee is very acidic. And when we have these infections inside of us, a lot of them produce organic acids. And our body has to stay at a neutral pH level. So what it's doing is burning up minerals to kind of offset the acids that we're dealing with. We can become deficient in minerals, and then we suffer in many other ways because our body can't function as properly. So the key is that we want to, when we're recovering and when we want to live our best life, and yeah, maybe I'm a little bit radical, but I had a second chance at life, and I love life so much. And the work that we're doing, that we're seeing people get their lives back, it's so wild. And being a grandmother and all those things are so much more important than having caffeine, and I don't crave it, so why would I go back to it? But in the recovery process, right, when you are having a lot of caffeine, as I mentioned, it can make the infections, the parasites, like if you get wired, think about worms, how they will get wired. And do you want them wired in you? They'll be causing more damage. So no, we don't want that. I like to talk really common sense. And if you're like, what, worms, Pam, with MS? Yes, parasites, worms, etc. And I've got tons of videos on YouTube and on Facebook, Live Disease Free. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you can get all these educational talks. It's life-changing. So it is very important to avoid caffeine and coffee and chocolate, because number one, we want to make sure we avoid caffeine, but it's even in decaffeinated, as I mentioned. And number two, we don't want to be taking acidic things in our body when we're already dealing with so many acids from these infections. And those are the biggest reasons. So we're building our body up with minerals. We're not trying to take in acidic foods that would make us more depleted. That's why we would avoid that. So Pamela, that's your answer there. Thanks for asking. Deb, you are so welcome, Deb. So the key is that there are times when we fall, right? There are times when we do something that we know that we shouldn't do. But it's okay. You just pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you just keep going. And you understand that it isn't fair, right? It is not fair that I was dealing with these deep-rooted infections, but it's just the way it is. And the key is that you now have the wisdom. You understand it's not just the sugar. Yes, sugar is addictive. It's not just the processed carbs, the sugar part of it, whatever that makes you so addictive, but it is also the infections. And because you have that wisdom, you can now just pick yourself up and you can go through these steps again, and you can just keep moving forward. And if you do that, you're going to find that the cravings are going to go away. If you're really true to yourself, like I said, 2 weeks is not a long period of time. And the worst part of it will be over then. And after the worst part is over, then it becomes so much easier to say, no thanks, that's going to put me in a wheelchair. That's going to kill me. I don't want it. No, thank you. Right? So don't beat yourself up. Just understand that you have the wisdom, you have the power, and you just have to implement those steps a little bit better. And make sure you get support. Make sure you get that community behind you. Or like what we have is in our calls, they're so motivational and they're so inspirational. Make sure that you're in that type of community until you're strong enough to fly out of the nest and be off on your own, right? Make sure you have that. It's so worth it. Hi, Margaret. You find that if you get off track, this community gives you the strength to get back on the course. Yes, absolutely. It is an ongoing journey. It is a lifelong journey. You're so true. You're so right, Margaret. And it is incredibly powerful, and it's empowering when you get through that craving, because it's so liberating and it's so freeing for me to go out with my loved ones and go out and have a good time, like a sincerely good time. And I don't suffer the next day for it. You know, if I've been up too late, yeah, I'll be tired, but I won't suffer to the degree that I would have otherwise. Hi, Jackie. So Janae, you're unable to cook. You have home caregiver that doesn't cook. So this is where maybe you need to find a different home caregiver. Maybe you need to find somebody who will cook for you. That's really important. That is a huge part of recovery. Hi, Julia. Hi, Lee. Hi, Janae. Hi from London, the UK. Hi, Sal. It's late for you. You're up really late. Hi, JK. KJ, sorry. Hi, Ronnie and Janae. What if we are unable to shop or cook on our own? What would you recommend, Pam? So you are the only one who can change this. And there are people that will help you, but you have to reach out. So number one, you said you have a care aide. So this is where you have to talk to the agency and find a care aide that is going to be more accommodating for you. Or there are communities, there are different nonprofit organizations and churches where people volunteer. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe you've got 3 or 4 friends, and maybe one of them can come out once a month to help, maybe bring the food. Oh, another thing too is that you don't have to shop, because a lot of grocery stores, they will deliver the produce to you. So you could literally have the produce, like even things like Save On Foods will deliver, these big chain stores. So have them deliver the food, have somebody, a friend or a family member, or maybe it's somebody from a church or a nonprofit organization that'll come out and just for 2 hours once a month, right? So they'll do 1 week, and they'll chop up some food for you. They'll make some salads for you. They'll throw a couple of chickens in the oven, etc. Throw a roast in the oven, whatever kind of foods that you line out, just something simple so you have good, healthy food that, like I said, that is as close to its natural state as possible. It is totally possible. It is totally doable, but this is where I'm giving you the ideas, and that is my job, is to inspire you, to give you the steps and what you need to do so that you can change your life. And that's what I do. That's what I love to do. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Allison. You just got home. Allison is a huge wellness champion. I'm going to interview her in the near future here because she's had some pretty crazy, wild improvements already, and so many of you inspire me to no end. Last one, thanks for all the love. I haven't craved bread, Janae, I haven't craved bread since my divorce, and I stopped eating carbs that I crave as a snack before bed. So that's the thing, is you can eat other foods, but just avoid the carbs before bed, and don't eat nuts before bed because nuts are hard to digest. Think about when you're going to bed that you don't want to eat like a lot of food. I like to say no food for a couple of hours before bed. If you have to eat something, maybe a little bit of healthy fat and maybe a little bit of low carb vegetable, but be careful with nuts because that will really feed the infections while you're sleeping, because as you're sleeping, the digestive system slows down, it wants to rest, and then you may not digest those nuts very well, or nut butter, and then it's going to be food for the infections lower down where they're harboring, and you'll feed them through the night, and then in the morning you'll feel worse. So that's it for today. The topic for next week, I just wanted to pull it up here. Next week's topic are the best ways to treat chronic pain. I know a lot of us suffer with chronic pain and we don't want to rely on these painkiller medication. And so I'm going to give you some tips on the best ways to recover and to first treat and recover from chronic pain. So I hope you guys have an awesome week. We will see you same time next week. And make sure, if you're at that place where you're like, Pam, I love what you're saying, I want to learn more, watch our videos on YouTube and Facebook, Live Disease Free. I've got tons of different topics. And if you're at that place, it's like, thanks for all the free stuff, Pam, but I want to plan, I want to recover, then make sure to reach out, watch my masterclass training. And it's going to be linked here in the feed of this comment section or above the video, and watch that. And then reach out to me and you can start to take back your life this week if you like. Take care and bye-bye for now.